Climate change and biodiversity loss are global issues that do not respect national boundaries. That's why countries need to work together through international agreements to address challenges collectively. It's also important to back up these agreements by making national commitments and turning them into laws and policies. The Paris Agreement set a new direction for global climate action, with 194 countries plus the European Union currently parties. Under the Paris Agreement, nationally determined contributions, NDCs for short, require countries to establish targets, report progress, and implement actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate change impacts. Every 5 years, states' collective progress in achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement is assessed under the global stocktake, with the expectation that parties' NDCs will become more ambitious over time, a process known as the ratchet mechanism. Without national laws and policies, national commitments like NDCs are hollow and at risk of not being met according to the preference of the current government. The good news is that the number of national climate laws and policies is on the rise. Further, all parties to the Paris Agreement have at least one law, policy or regulation addressing climate change. Countries need to be increasingly ambitious with their national laws and regulations, recognizing the imminent threats that both climate change and biodiversity loss present. For example, in Switzerland, a law has been passed that codifies their commitment to cut net greenhouse gas emissions to zero by 2050. In New Zealand, a law has been passed that makes it mandatory for large companies, including banks and insurers, to consider and publicly disclose the effects the climate may have on their business, as well as the effects their business is having on the climate, including their Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. In Kenya, a national climate law has been passed that lets counties create their own local laws, allowing for approaches that fit their specific needs. In South Africa, a law has been passed that allows the government to set carbon budgets for large greenhouse gas-emitting companies. In the European Union, the EU Parliament passed a law to require its countries to introduce measures to restore nature on a fifth of their land and sea by 2030. Here are 3 things you can do to support national implementation of international climate and biodiversity agreements. Increase ambition in NDCs by playing an active part in their compilation and review. Translate global climate and biodiversity commitments into national laws and regulations and track their effectiveness. Refer to the Climate Change Laws of the World database to learn what other countries are doing, and Climate Action Tracker to assess the effectiveness of country climate commitments. Seek to make climate and biodiversity a whole-of-government issue and ensure adequate budgetary support to meet national commitments.